Welcome everyone to this information seminar about the Knut and Alice Wallenberg and SciLifeLab Proof of Concept grant in life science. My name is Isolde Palombo and I am a project coordinator at SciLifeLab Operations Office and I will be moderating the seminar. With me today I also have Alice Solazzo and Per Lek, who are also at the Operations Office at SciLifeLab, and they were coordinating this grant together with me from SciLifeLab. And today's seminar will start with an introduction about the grant. Then we will continue by hearing from two recipients of the grants that will share their story and how their thoughts were when applying for the grant. After that, we will dwell more into the more practical details about the application process. And there will be time for questions after each talk. And then I kindly ask you to use the raise your hand application function in Zoom. And I'll give the word to you, but you're also welcome to post your questions in the chat. We also have time in the end for additional questions and a more open discussion. By that, I will give the word to Olli Kallioniemi. He's the Professor of Molecular Precision Medicine at Karolinska Institutet. He's also the Director of the SciLifeLab DDLS program, and also the Chair of the Scientific Proof of Concept Review Panel. So, Olli, go ahead.
Okay, thanks so much, Isolde. So let's get this going. So I hope everybody sees this now fine. So very much welcome everybody to this info seminar and sort of I will quickly go through what this is all about from the SciLifeLab and KAW standpoint, but you will probably hear a little bit of overlapping slides, which probably does not bother too much because you get a more in-depth view of the program. So the purpose of this grant is to bridge the gap from academia to academic research to innovations in science. And it's given to scientists working at a university who has made or already made an innovation or a discovery, but requires additional support to validate and take it forward. So it is therefore not an academic scientific grant to just do discovery science or to do translational research, nor is it a business development grant for a company, because the recipient has to be an academic scientist in the context of a university. And this is what we are very thankful to the Knut and Alice Wallenberg Foundation that this grant mode exists. And I think it's really crucial that we are helping the bridging of research discoveries to innovations. So what is proof of concept is actually an old concept coined by NASA in the 1970s and has subsequently spread to all kinds of other areas from space research. And the point is really in this context to talk about the gap that we would like to fill between academia and industrial product development. So essentially, the POC will ideally build a specific bridge that is needed for these two fields and these two interests in a way to get better connected. I would like to contrast this with the typical slide that many of us show in our presentations, which is the translational research gap, which is much wider and which is much more complicated. So the idea of the proof of concept is not to fill the entire translational research gap, starting from sample collection and profiling and bioinformatic analysis and all sorts of things like that. No clinical trials and so forth per se, but really to find this piece of bridge, missing piece of the bridge, which would be the proof of concept grant funding. So as said, this will not fund industrial product development. So this is, as a concept, this is open to all fields of science, and we obviously have in the life science community all kinds of areas that are eligible to apply, but the main requirement is that there needs to be a KAW funding or a SciLifeLab association with this, and I'll get back to this eligibility question, which is always the most critical here. So we have the proof of concept grant, and you will then hear about another concept from Lilian later on, which is the WALP process, which is the Wallenberg Launchpad. And these two things are connected to the process of creating innovations or facilitating the creation of innovations. So who is eligible to apply, and a little bit why we have these rules, because it is often sort of a little bit confusing. First of all, this is really not a SciLifeLab funded effort. This is only funded by KAW, and their interest is to promote innovations arising from KAW funded research. As said, otherwise this is open to everybody, but you need to have a prior link to KAW funded research. So eligible to apply are scientists that are employed at Swedish universities and have had grants or support from the Wallenberg Foundation, such as Wallenberg Academy Fellows, Scholars, Clinical Fellows, or they have been PIs or co-PIs in KAW projects, KAW funded projects, or scientists who are part of the Wallenberg Centers for Molecular Medicine or any other strategic programs that Wallenberg funds, such as the DDLS program. Then it is expanded to include the SciLifeLab fellows, SciLifeLab group leaders, and infrastructure platform personnel, and also users of the DDD platform, as well as other SciLifeLab strategic programs. So let me point to these two asterisks in the next slide to give a little bit of more detail, but I can't cover, and we can't cover every little detail and every little possibility. So by all means, please ask us, because it is really important as to who is eligible. So first of all, many originally, at least the first time around that we had this grant, this is the third year that we now run this, many said that I'm user of the SciLifeLab infrastructure and therefore I apply. As such, there are 4,000 projects per year running through SciLifeLab infra. Not all of them are eligible to apply. But because of the nature of this call and the nature of the DDD platform services, those of you who are users of the DDD program are eligible, because therapeutics is such a main area of innovation arising from academic research. So if you have a therapeutic innovation, such as a potential target or early stage inhibitor, we strongly encourage you not just to come and apply to this call, but apply to the DDD program so that you can first work with them to sort out your innovation and get help from them to make this go forward. Because otherwise you need to explain how you would cover all the costs involved in creating an inhibitor, or how you would acquire all the expertise needed for the entire process of drug discovery. So this is a special case, this drug discovery space. Another special case, and I'm not going to spend a long time here, usually it is sufficient that you just have a grant or you are somehow eligible, and we don't pay exactly attention that is this discovery arising or is this innovation arising specifically from this grant. If you got the grant or if you are a fellow or whatever, you are eligible per se, whatever you apply, as long as it's science-based. But if you have been funded as a DDLS PhD student supervisor, you are eligible only to apply for proof of concept within the area of that proof of concept. But as said, there's so much details to these things. So there is a document available on the web page. There is a Q&A form on the web page. So please make use of them. We can't cover everybody's specific context, but we can take questions at the end regarding the general principles for sure. So as said, this is the third time that we run this. We had 61 applications on the first round, 40 applications in the second round. Our process then prioritized 18 and last year 20 applications to the Wallenberg Launchpad process, which then further prioritized the applications, and then there were 10 granted on each year. So you will be contacted that, okay, you passed the first phase. You are invited to the WALP process to discuss your innovation forward, but not all of those who will be invited will get the final grant. So that's perhaps good to keep in mind. Many universities have received, have applied and have received grants from this process. So this is really otherwise a national call. The statistics from the past two rounds of approved proof of concept grants are such that half of them have been therapeutics associated, 4 technology, 5 diagnostic, 1 biomaterials. There have been no quotas that we would like to have this many of this type or this many of the other. This is probably reflecting partly the application pressure, but also the high quality applications that have come in. And again, please consider contacting the DDD platforms before applying to the proof of concept. It's not required, but otherwise you will have more difficulties usually to justify your process. Because this funding is very little compared to the cost of the drug discovery process even needed to get to licensing or startup phase. And again, many of you will be invited to participate in this process, but not everyone will be funded. So it's important to make a note of that. So some lessons, and very quickly, what are the characteristics of approved grants in this program? First of all, they have an exciting discovery that is scientifically sound. There's significant potential as an innovation or a product for either launching a startup or just licensing the innovation out. And we do need some external interest or proof of that interest or validation for that. And we can discuss that also later. And that this grant suggests work that over the next 2-year period, with the amount of funding available, can have an impact. So sometimes the innovation is great, but we can't figure out how the 2-year support would help making it much better. And what are usually the reasons for declining grants is that the applications were too early. This is by far the most common case. So there was not really a case to be made for a proof of concept. There was no clear discovery yet defined, or the discovery was too early and not ready for exploitation, and IP was unclear, or that there was unclear value, unclear end users, or even unclear purpose in some cases. So not clearly also defining the added value. And some applications there went too late. So IP was already being transferred to a company, and the company was exploiting it already. There was industrial product development underway. That's a little bit too late. You can have a company already. You can even have the IP in a company, but you should not be having a situation where the innovation is already funded in a company and is being developed forward. So last 2 years, we have a number. These are publicly available, these titles and the recipients of the grants. Now we have 2 examples that we go through today from 2023, Ilaria and Anna, who will describe their innovation and particularly the states where they were when they applied for the grant. This is the rest of the grants from that year. Before I now stop, let me just clarify also what's the role of the KAW here, what's the role of the SciLifeLab here. So KAW has decided to have this call. This is their sort of a decision, and this is intended therefore to the recipients of the KAW funding. So they provide funding, are defining eligibility, and their systems, electronic systems, are applied for submitting the applications. The prioritized applications enter the KAW's Wallenberg launchpad, and then the KAW makes the final decisions on which grants will be funded. And obviously, KAW has lots of other opportunities for funding. SciLifeLab role, we help to announce and propagate the proof of concept grant. Well, that's what we do today. SciLifeLab and KAW have assembled together a life science evaluation panel that will confidentially assess the applications, including the eligibility issues, and review them in the light of the scientific potential and innovation strength. And this panel that I will chair will select about 15 or 20 top applications that will then undergo the Wallenberg Launchpad process. And again, not all prioritized applications will actually get the grant. And again, I say that there's no SciLifeLab government funds, infrastructure, SFO, or otherwise, that will be applied for this call. The scientific evaluators will work for KAW and not for SciLifeLab, and the SciLifeLab board will not make any funding decisions on this. This is also important that we retain the IP, that they are not submitted to a government entity, that the grants stay at the KAW side, and you can retain all your IP and confidentiality in the process. You've seen the timeline, and again, deadline is in about 2 months, so better start preparing for this. Further information in our website, and again, there is a Q&A form, so whatever we can't handle today, you can ask from the website, and please make use of that for your special case, which may be difficult sometimes to handle here. So I'm done for my part.
Okay, thank you, Olli, for the excellent overview. Are there any direct questions to Olli right now? If there are not, we can also save them for later if there's something popping up. So now, to make things a little bit easier to grasp, we thought it would be valuable to hear from someone who's actually gone through this process by applying for the grant and also actually then received funding for the proof of concept project. So therefore, we have invited 2 of these scientists today. The first one is Ilaria Testa. Ilaria is a professor at the Department of Applied Physics at KTH. She's a previous SciLifeLab fellow, and you'll find her here at Campus Solna, SciLifeLab. She applied for the grant with her project on the first call in 2023, and she will now tell us something about that.
Thank you, Isolde, for the introduction. Let me share the screen. Wait. Is that okay? Perfect. So hi, everyone. And thanks for the possibility to, discuss this project here. This is about the project Tumble Sense that was for the technology part, and it was about a method to detect molecular interaction, molecular dynamics in cells. Just a few, let me see. Just a few words. As Isolde said, I was one of the first generation SciLife fellow. In general, I'm a physicist with background in microscopy, and I've been starting my research lab in SciLifeLab here in Gamma 3 about 10 years ago, from between KDH and Applied Physics Department. So what we do in the lab, just to give you a little bit of understanding of the science behind this application. So we generate tools, typically computational tools, to control the microscope, optics, and light patterns. And we also work at the edge between physical chemistry, and all of that to generate new tools to actually study and quantifying how molecule protein interact in a complex system like cells or tissue. So in situ for us is a very important point. And I highlight here in orange a few of the scientific work that were behind the project that I applied for the proof of concept. And there was also another drive that pushed me to apply for that. There was the generation and the training of people in my lab that were at the stage where they were conducting very good academic research, but at the same time, they show that their mindset was also a little bit different. So they were unsure if they wanted to conduct a pure academic research, but also explore other type of doing science, like innovation. And so they were curious. They were undecided yet what to do. So and I think this is also important to have like the people that has sort of technical know-how and drive, and they show that they could do project, but in the same time, they are also open to other type of research. So in general, I speak a lot about dynamics. We look at dynamics typically with the fluorescent microscopy, and in the mindset of everyone, when we look at cellular process, we look at how molecule rapidly change in space and time, so they generate signal. And this can be done in different scale, typically with very fast and blurred microscope at a larger scale. But then when you really want to go to the molecular scale, things become complicated. And typically, if you only use this translational diffusivity, that what we look like a molecule translating, it becomes hard because you slow down the acquisition, and you typically don't get down to the rapid scale that, for example, like a molecule would bind to another. So it's not impossible, but it's really, really hard and complicated. We have placed a lot of work in trying to get there this way, but then we actually realized that there was another way to study dynamics that was underlooked, that is actually the way the molecule rotate. And this is really the core of the conceptual core of the science that was behind the application. So how basically we were like to study the way the molecule rotate with different optical schemes and in polarized light, for example, and that was basically the part of the science that would have enabled us then to actually look at different stage and conformational stage of molecule in the cells. So look at rotational diffusivity. This was very, very sensitive. And because of that, we can address then assemblies or disassemblies of protein in situ. So I will not say much more about that, but I just wanted to say that this was important, for example, to start studying the interaction of large compounds like antibodies and virus and ribosome. So this was the core of the science that we were doing. Like it was an idea of a project that we started more or less in 2019, 2020, and then we work out to demonstrate the proof of principle in many ways. And this was the result was this the work in natural biotechnology, where we present sort of the conceptual foundation of the technique and how that can already in the early stage be applied to cellular system. I will not talk anymore about like this. So if you are interested in the technique, of course, you can contact me. But I just wanted to tell you that at that point, we realized that the concept, was interesting, was a science we like, we could prove it, but was also, we felt that there was much more into that, that of course it was fueling additional academic type of research or to study mechanism in specific cell biological application. But there was something, I think, with the concept and the scalability that convinced us that could have been impactful also in other fields. So at that time already we filed a a PCT, a provisional patent to sort of start protecting the IP. And we were at the time that we were wondering, what should we do? Should we continue with that? Can have potential for innovation and the industrial sector. And I was really glad at that time that we could apply for this funding, because only because of that I started discussing with the team more concrete terms how we could bring this sort of new technique to other fields. And so we drafted the project back then, where we wanted to develop sort of a 2.0 system that differ from the academic setup. You will see in many ways, but they would, in my mind, be as sort of ubiquitous as a PCR machine, but also as flexible that you can put it in the bench and then sort of record this information about this new observable that will tell you something about the conformational state of your molecule in cells. And so we divided the work package, and the first one was very much based on engineering and tried to get the system in a compact way and be reliable and robust. And then also to verify the system with different cellular assay, and also to start studying also the potential to different targets, to use that for different target. So this is a simplified idea that we had at the time, where, for example, you can imagine a cell surface with a receptor, and then you get your drugs perhaps based on large compound, and then you would detect how a virus would rotate. And based on the rotational ability of the virus, you would infer if there has been binding or not. And we thought it would be like beautiful because you don't have to put any fluorescent molecule either on the receptor or in the target, and you're not limited anymore in the size of the molecule that would bind, but then you would be able to sort of screen different conditions. And what was important at that time, and again, that came through the application and through the process and the coaching, also to understand the competitive advantage of this method toward other already present methodology to infer binding and unbinding, like single molecule threat or conventional polarization microscopy. So that we really kept the time also to see that, and also to find out things that perhaps academically were not, again, that important, but then from a more user perspective, or if you start tackling different fields from yours, become more important, like the fact that it's compatible with other screening, that you can make it like compatible with other system already existing, other technology already used, for example, in screening application and so on. And so that's what basically we did. So that's where we started. When we drafted the application, we had the academic system that looked like this. As you can see, we had to be explorative, so it's a really bulky system, but we didn't want to compromise sensitivity or other things that we thought it was very important in when you bring a method from the concept to actually the running machine. But then thanks to this proof of concept, we actually moved to this system. So we took the time to design this system based on very different engineering, and then we had to put a lot of thoughts how to do the imaging scheme, how to still record temporal information and other things. But what is important is that now, like a year later, we have it, and you see they look very different. Now we can basically bring that, we can move that from different room more easily, perhaps even bring in safety level 2 type of buildings, and even think about initiating collaboration of this type. And also was very important to have it compatible with multi-WALP, because one of the key points was the scalability. And so all of that, like along this year, so a lot of things happened. So we also, took the courage to found a company, which we didn't have at the moment of the application, and then to reinforce the team, and then to start think a little bit different about also the field. So we typically has been working a lot in the imaging field, the microscopy field, super resolution field, but then we thought that this technology could be useful also for other fields. And that what this grant meant, also to start, broadening the spectra of application in science that. So that's the website of Riser. And I like to say that this grant comes with funding that, of course, are important and enable us to move to, as I said, the proof of concept system to the prototype. But I think what I found it also really, really, really extremely helpful and valuable are the business coaching, because these really help you to lower the entry barrier for academic to innovation. That for someone like me that has seen along the path, I was not that exposed to, industrial type of application. Simply, I was at Max Planck. I was been, developing concept for super resolution, and then I moved to SciLife, and I had to establish my lab. So it didn't come natural before to think of that, because also in different countries, different systems, you have different approach to innovation. So this was very good. Of course, as everything in the learning process, you also learn how to rethink about priorities. Priorities that are in an academic project are not necessarily important for a potential product. And finally, these all things really help to, if you are interested, to start developing a more business type of mindset. So to understand what actually is important for a product, which, as I said, can be very, very different compared to a research project that is sort of more principle-based. Or I'm not saying that we are there. Of course, we are still in the process to get there. But the fact that we got this funding and this help and give us at least the opportunity to explore what is there and to understand what are the steps needed to make something, to think about potential product. Could be prototype, could be, analysis based tools, or KIT and so on. So this is basically all I wanted to say, and I'm happy to answer questions if you have it.
Thank you, Ilaria. It's very exciting to hear about your research and also how the proof of concept grant has given you more than one opportunity and also some courage. Does anyone have a question to Ilaria at this stage? Do we see any hands? No?
One question in the chat.
Yeah, okay, it's one in the chat. Okay, it's from Marcus. Can you elaborate a bit more on not ready for proof of concept, IP not defined or ready for exploitation?
That must
It's
be
for
my
Olli.
slide,
Yes,
actually.
so we can take that. Should we
Let's
take that
take that
afterwards?
at the end, maybe.
Yes, sorry. Okay.
We have a Christelle.
But one hand is up.
That's a question.
Yes, hello. Thank you for a nice presentation, Ilaria. I'm wondering, so you have a very nice publication also, and I'm wondering how important it is to have published. You can have protected IP, I guess, but how do you think having a very strong publication helped you in the whole process?
So it was more for us. Well, I would say that is more what we had in the publication, because in the publication we had some already proof of concept that it could work in cells and tissues. So I think on that sense, it was important to have it there at this stage, that we already used the system for something that was important for life science. I obviously haven't not reviewing my application myself, so maybe Olli can say a little bit more about that. But it could help, but I'm yeah, probably it helped, right? But I'm not sure if it's a fundamental, like a necessary principle. Also because sometimes, so in our case, we had a provisional patent before, and we could file the patent before the publication. But of course, if you don't do that, you also risk that you can protect your IP, right? So maybe that can be important, even if there are obviously very successful companies that still don't have the technology patent. But I guess it's a pity.
So, Olli, do you want to comment?
Yeah, maybe just a comment. So thanks, Christelle. That was really good question, because it certainly, exactly like Ilaria was saying, it helps, but it is by no means required. So not all of the people who got the grant had already shown a fantastic publication. It just gives credibility. It gives the sort of a confidence for us that there's something really behind this innovation. You can create that confidence in other ways as well. In many occasions, scientific discovery height and commercial potential go hand in hand, but in many occasions they also don't go hand in hand. But thanks, Ilaria, for a great talk. And I maybe should say also that we are not expecting everybody to have this type of an instrumentation and engineering in their innovation. So don't feel like you need to be developing these instruments in order to be eligible for a grant. But it's great that you could. And another important, interesting thing that what you said struck me in a sense that this was not just you coming up with the discovery. It was the people in your lab who had a mindset of going in that direction. And that's an important other role that this type of a proof of concept can have, that it creates career opportunities for people. So great inspirational talk.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ilaria. So next, we have asked Anna Dimberg to join us. Anna is the SciLifeLab group leader and the professor at the Department of Immunology, Genetics and Pathology at Uppsala University. And she was funded through this grant both in 2023 and in 2024 with two different projects, or separate projects. So it's not the same project.
So the WALP coaching then, how was that? Well, I really want to give a lot of credit to the coaches. In our first project, my coaches were Lilian Wikström and then Elin Almstedt and Sandor Albrecht. And then in the second project that we got granted this year, it was Mikael Akras, and then Lilian and Sandor were also in this panel. And they have been really amazing. I think the first thing that they did is really to take us out of our comfort zone. We are scientists. We've been only working with preclinical projects and kind of basic research, and we're used to talking about science. We love talking about science. But here they made us think about how our antibody could be of interest commercially as a product, which we never thought about before. Also, they had helped us think kind of what would investors actually be interested in, how can we make this attractive somehow for investors, what type of competition exists, and are we actually going to try to do a startup company, or do we want to license our product? I mean, a lot of these things that we haven't thought about at all. They made us to further clarify the project. So one, to be really clear exactly what we wanted to do and why this would help us bring the antibody to the clinic. So this was really clarifying even more than we do when we write regular research plans, to think about really what exactly do we need to do to bring this to the clinic, and not to do anything else in this project that we don't need, nothing that is exploratory at all. And also to be really clear, to kind of talk in a way that non-specialists would understand our projects. And so we made a lot of changes to how we were talking about our project from when we started the WALP process until later. And really, what are we doing and why are we doing it? They also were really good at pointing out our weaknesses. In our case, it was a lack of experience. We haven't done this before. They made us think about how to get around this and who would actually drive the company. And they were really questioning kind of how will we do this, and what are really the plans. And this was important because it really made us think about our plans, think about our weaknesses, and try to see, so how can we actually make this a reality and not only a dream. They challenged our ideas and plans. They were asking us, are all the parts of your program actually necessary? Is this important? Is this actually going to help you bring this to the clinic? Or is this just science to understand something better? And they were also questioning, how much resources do we actually need for this? And can we do this within 2 years? So I think this was really useful because it made us be extremely practical about our work. They also made us kind of make a map for our path to the clinic, which we hadn't done before. That we were just, this antibody is going to be great for patients, but we hadn't really thought about all the different parts. So to think about how would a clinical trial look like, what patients would be in that clinical trial, who can do our clinical trial, what would the requirements be, which investors could maybe be important for this, and how can we get the money at the start of our program. So these discussions were really, for me, who hasn't done this before, this was extremely useful, and I really, it was difficult, but I really still enjoyed it. They also helped us make a successful pitch. So make a pitch that was easy to understand, and to where it was really clear what we wanted to do and why this was important, and why perhaps there would be both end users and investors that would be interested in kind of bringing our company forward. And it was really a great experience. So I think the coaching, I learned so much. It really helped me to bring our plans to make a company and make it so much more realistic, and to kind of paint out the complete road, how we would bring this all the way to the patient. So I think that, and also it really helped us kind of practice pitching and trying to pitch things in a good way, so that not only specialists would understand, that we could actually try to explain our research to people that were not exactly in the field as well. So I did all the pitching for our first project, and then in the second project I was doing this. It's an effort with me and Magnus Susanne, who are driving this project together. And then it was clear that he should try the pitching, because this was such a great experience, and he really wanted to try it as well. And I can really recommend everyone to do this. This was really a very nice part of this grant. So thanks a lot, and thanks to Knut and Alice Wallenberg Stiftelse for supporting us. And I would just end by saying good luck. I mean, jumping into commercialization is really something, at least for me, going into the unknown, and maybe for many others here as well. And it's just really good luck. It's fun and it's challenging, and best of luck for your projects. Thanks.
Thank you, Anna, for sharing your project and also all these valuable information in the end. And it's also, you mentioned a lot of good things that that are good to think about also when writing the application. So thank you for sharing. And now we will continue with to hear more about the grant and application process. And this we'll hear from Lilian Wikström. And Lilian is responsible for the program at the Knut and Alice Wallenberg Foundation. She's the director of innovation at the foundation, and before that she also worked with innovation at Karolinska Institutet for many years and has a background in the pharma industry. So go ahead, Lilian, and the screen is yours.
Thank you. Let's get my screen shared. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you very much, Isolde, for the introduction, and thank you very much, Anna and Ilaria, for sharing your experiences of the proof of concept call. It was very interesting to hear it. I'd like to now give you some practical information about the call and the application. Some of it will be a repetition maybe, but also I will add some additional details that may be helpful. You can change the slides there. Yes. So just one step back. The rationale behind the call is really that the Knut and Alice Wallenberg Foundation, or KAW, has been for a century and still is a major funder of excellent research in Sweden, particularly in areas of natural sciences, technology, and medicine. For example, only last year, the contribution was 2.4 billion Swedish kronor, so it's quite substantial. And needless to say, this has resulted over the years in lots and lots of new innovation, new knowledge, new findings, some of which has the potential of developing into really useful and valuable innovative products that could be important to society and for life science to patients as well. So for this reason, the foundation is launching a proof of concept call to enable scientists with funding from KAW to develop their research-based innovative ideas further. And so proof of concept calls are available in 3 different areas. My pointer doesn't work, but if you focus on the middle of the slide there, it's in the 3 areas are material sciences, and this is as of last year. The first call was in 2024. AI and quantum technologies, there will be the first call launched this year. And importantly, life science, where we now have the 3rd consecutive yearly call open for applications. It's open to all past and present recipients of funding from the KAW, as Olli was detailing. Before diving into the details about the call, I would just like to mention that the Wallenberg ecosystem is developing and now also includes an investment company called Navigare Ventures, which may be of interest later if and when commercial funding is needed. But there are no strings attached between the proof of concept calls and projects and Navigare Ventures, so hence the dotted line. But I think it's good for you guys to know that there is also a commercial potential in this ecosystem. Now, as Olli pointed out, the proof of concept call is intended to bridge the gap between the basic curiosity-driven research and commercialization by funding this validation step that's needed to prove that the concept is really novel and that it holds up for further development and it's really worth pursuing further. Available for reasons mentioned only to KAW funded researchers, and importantly, this is still an academic research grant. So there are no strings attached whatsoever. The money is not commercial, which means that it cannot pay for commercial activities, which I will go a little bit more into detail about later. But this is money that goes to your university. Now, these are the dates to remember for this year's call. It opened 2 weeks ago, which is about a month earlier than last year, in order to give you as much time as possible to think about this and plan for your application. So it will close on March 21st. And what happens then is the scientific review, which is taken place during the spring. After the summer, coaching of the selected projects during the fall, and the final pitch when the funding decisions are being done will be made in December, and the projects start in January. So just to give you an overview of the process now, the proof of concept call is managed by the Wallenberg Launchpad, or WALP, that Olli also mentioned. And the full grant cycle is 3 years. There are 2 clear stop-go decision points. So the first phase is the application phase, where we are at right now. And during this time, we do our best to, and especially SciLifeLab is doing a great job in spreading the word and discussing and informing potential applicants about this opportunity. After the call closes, all applications will be reviewed by the scientific expert panel chaired by Olli. Excuse me. And the top 20 or so applications will be turned over to the WALP. So this is the first selection. Then starts the coaching phase with the 20 or so chosen projects. And I think this is really what also, as you heard from Anna, what differentiates this grant from many other grants, that there is a sort of very much hands-on coaching period to work further on the project plan and the pitch. And the aim is to really support the applicants to finalize or to really further development their project plan and pitch so that it will be competitive for the final pitch, which is then done for the decision committee, which is chaired by Göran Sandberg and takes place in December. And that then starts off the 2-year period, the execution period, which is typically 2 years or not longer than 2 years. And during this time, also the projects have, we're eager to help if and when we can during this time. And we have contact, especially on some regular follow-up meetings, which are typically yearly. The application is submitted using the KAW grant application portal, and I think it's relatively self-explanatory once you get there. I would suggest you to already now familiarize yourself with the application format, because it is different from a typical research application. We're asking for a relatively brief 10-page, very focused project plan, which clearly states the problem or the issue that you're addressing, why it is important, how you intend to address it, and if you're successful, why your solution would be, what it would bring, what the end product is, and how it's better than what's typically out there. This is known as the NABC concept as well: need, approach, benefit, and competition. We also ask for a 1-pager to really get the essence out of the project application. Complete budget, university style, a CV, of course, We need a certificate from the head of the department. And importantly, also a verification of interest from external parties. For example, an investor, an industry representative who can verify the need for this product and indicate the relevance and importance of your particular concept. The evaluation focuses on obviously finding the most successful proof of concept projects. So first of all, is it really a proof of concept project, or is it more a basic research project or product development project? Are the problems and the solutions well defined? Is there a clear plan? Is it realistic? Have you been thinking about intellectual property? Again, the external interest. What about the team? And so on. And I would like to point out that we don't expect you to have sort of everything in place. Not everybody does. And some of this will be developed also during the project period and of course afterwards. But it's important that you have these evaluation criteria in mind and somehow address and think about them. So the maximum funding that can be applied for is 4 million Swedish, and the maximum grant period is 2 years. The costs that can be covered, as I already mentioned, are only costs that are approved by your university. So for this reason, this grant money cannot pay for patent applications. They cannot pay for business development and so on. But this is following the guidelines of the university. Typical costs that are included in the budgets would be salaries, infrastructure, travel, lab space, and so on. And the foundation allows only up to 20% of indirect costs, and this is why you need the letter of approval from your department head. So yes, I hope that we've been able to give you a better understanding of what the proof of concept call is all about. And I'm sure that this has sparked your interest, especially after hearing the presentations of Anna and Ilaria. Some of you may already have a clear idea in your head what if you have a possible proof of concept project, while others of you are probably still starting to think about this. But either way, it's a good idea to start early. I think, as Ilaria was also saying, to discuss with your lab members about good ideas for proof of concept. Also, I think it's very valuable if you strike up a discussion with your local innovation office. They can also be a very good speaking partner and resource when you need to understand better the more sort of businessy parts of this. And help you identify external partners to get your validation letters from, to get a grip on your IP situation and so on and so forth. So we think that has turned out to be very helpful for several applicants. Yes, so we hope to get your applications in. We're eager to also answer any questions you may have, and I would second Olli there in saying there is an excellent frequently asked questions section on the SciLifeLab webpage. You might find the answer there. Otherwise, we'll have a discussion now. But also, please feel free to contact SciLifeLab or the KAW with any further questions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Lilian, for clarifying the application process, I hope. And we actually have a question for you from Charlotte Ling, I think.
Yes, so my camera has not been working today. I'm sorry for that. No, it's coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So my question is in relation to that there is a comment in here where it says it doesn't cover innovation analysis, that the grant does not cover that. So I'm thinking like I had a proof of concept grant from the ERC where validation of what you have discovered is important. So is that correct that it doesn't cover, what does the innovation analysis include? So if I have a discovery and I want to validate it to bring it to the market, is that covered by this grant?
Do you want to comment, Olli? I think, I mean, in terms of innovation analysis, maybe this is more like a business analysis. I'm not really sure where you find this instruction. Is it
No,
in...
it says Alice Sulazzo wrote, the grant does not cover.
Yeah,
in the
and
grant.
this is what is, sorry.
Yeah, and what specific is that? I mean, for me,
Yeah, it's in the
proof of
Q&A.
concept,
Yeah.
you need to be able to also do experiments and validate something you have already discovered. Or does it only cover the salaries of people doing the work, and you need to have the funding for validation for the proof of concept elsewhere?
Okay, so experiments can also, I mean, in terms of research material and equipment and so on, can also be covered by the grant. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe just because there may be a little bit of a gray zone there at the end between what is sort of a business development and what is, because in a way this is a scientific grant for academia and university, and what is clearly not covered is that this cannot pay for patenting costs. But then it's if you are able to procure services from the outside through the university, I don't know how much we have regulated as to what can be included in that.
Well, I mean, we're trying to regulate as little as possible, but I think that in general, what the university allows can be, this money can be used for, if the university allows you to buy a certain service, then you can use the grant money for it. But usually that excludes all sort of commercial work like business analysis, business development, IP development, company formation.
Yeah. But experimental analysis for a validation and to do the proof of concept, that is allowed.
Is clearly allowed, yes.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah.
And you can certainly suggest other expenses. I mean, they will be then looked at as part of the process to see how they fit with the context. And it's very hard in this type of a bridging thing to exactly define what is not appropriate and what is appropriate. It's so much case dependent. But we just leave the IP generation that does not belong to university. That is clearly the patent filing costs.
Yeah.
Those are out. But other than that, if in a project-specific manner, they can be justified and they are really helping the thing going forward and are not commercial expenses on behalf of a company, there is a possibility that this would be okay.
I would like to add that oftentimes there is quite a bit of discussion about the budget during the coaching also. So it's not sort of set in stone that if you have mentioned something in your budget that wouldn't be eligible, that this would be a ground for turning down your application. It's really we're discussing and trying to find the best possible ways for this. But the line is somewhere, and we're trying to sort of name it commercial because the grant is academic. But yeah, the gray zone is there.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question about the application process?
But maybe we can take in this domain, because Charlotte's question is so much similar, that how clear do you need to be in your proof of concept application about the future plans, and how knowledgeable do you need to be about the innovation landscape, regulations and so forth, starting a company versus product to be licensed and etc. So I think this is exactly what Lilian was just saying, that we surely would expect you to have a clear idea about the possible paths forward. But like Anna described in her presentation, she wasn't really sure. until getting into the WALP process as to which path would be better. I think the more important thing is to be able to describe that there would be value at the end, regardless of which path you take. Yeah, you need to have some, and the more you have, obviously, the better. But sometimes you are in a blue sky innovation space, and it's really not an easy thing to say what fits best, and it's so much dependent on your own interest as well. But if you don't want to become an entrepreneur, like Ilaria's example of having people in the lab who wanted to get a career at the same time, things may be dependent on those types of factors as well. So sorry that we sound like politicians, because we are not giving you clear answers, but that's really because this is a precision process tailored to each particular context.
And if I may add here, I think also that you may find it very useful to contact your innovation offices, because they would be very good speaking partners in trying to define what is what, and also they have some funding available to help pay for patent applications and business development and analysis that cannot be done by using this grant. So if the two ways of funding can be used in a smart way simultaneously or together, I think that's really to your benefit. So please get in touch with them.
Yes, and also on the question that was posed by Marcus before, this not ready for proof of concept or not, that's also something that the innovation offices could help clarify, I think.
Yeah, maybe I explained that a little bit as to why that was in the slide, that not ready for proof of concept in terms of IP not defined and ready for, or whatever reason. I think it is, if you clearly have no idea as to what is the IP in your proof of concept, and where is the beef in a way, and that will make it at least more difficult for you to get the grant. You should help us as evaluators to define the key innovative step in your process, and something where you really are likely to have IP. We don't expect you to have a full IP analysis of the entire landscape and sort of a competitor space and so forth. But also in that sense, you can do a little in that direction. It's amazing what my experience has shown, what you can do by AI, by just asking, give me a competitor analysis of IP landscape on topic X, Y, and Z, and you get a very detailed answer. And you can go very far without contacting a lawyer, all by yourself these days. You can even ask a business plan to be created by AI. And I'm not saying that you should follow it by the letter, but you get at least ideas on the different paths that you could take forward if you are not at all experienced yourself in that sense. And then the second point was really ready for exploitation. That can also mean a lot of things, but that can be that there's enormous competitive landscape somewhere, and even if you have IP, that doesn't mean that it's useful. And we at least need to look at it a little bit, even though we are not doing a detailed IP analysis at this stage. Sometimes the IP or your discovery may be lost because it's published, or it may be too old of an IP, or then you are dependent on other IP that is already licensed in a company. There's tons of different scenarios which this particular point referred to. So complexities around the IP can be a reason that we at least may sometimes discover, even though we don't claim to be experts in all aspects of this analysis. This will be a quick survey of these types of issues. So hopefully that answer clarified things a little bit.
Yeah, and maybe also follow up this one question here about the DD program. That the call says that the projects accepted for the DD program of SciLifeLab are eligible for this. Is there any limit on stage of the project?
Well, I don't quite understand what do you mean by the limit on the stage of the projects, meaning where you are in the DDD space when you apply for this. I guess that's where that comes from. So you do not have to be graduated, if I use the DDD terminology, from the DDD service program, because this can actually go in parallel. You may incur expenses that are very relevant sort of for the proof of concept and required for the DDD to make your project go forward. So this can go in parallel as well, but ideally, and in most cases, it is like Anna's example, that you needed a proof of concept in an animal. And when you start to go above and beyond what an academic grant is likely to pay for you or provide an opportunity, then this is obviously particularly helpful. But we don't have strong rules. As I said, it's not even a formal requirement that you have to have a DDD project in place. It's just so much more likely that then you have a competitive proposition. And like Anna's example showed, the DDD and the proof of concept systems, even though they are totally separate and independent of one another, you as a PI can, in the ideal case, combine them in a very strategic ways and get synergy benefit that go much further. Now I forgot what the question was, but you can answer that.
But it is this question that many people have. It's like, where do you know? Do you know if it's too early or too late? I mean, how do you know? And I think one way to sort of get to know is to contact innovation offices beforehand also and try to get some kind of feedback from them. Exactly. And Natalia here has also posted a link here for innovation coaching at SciLifeLab website. So please go, if you feel unsure, don't hesitate to also reach out to the innovation offices, because they can provide a lot of help in these questions. They know. We also have a question that I think you need to answer, Lilian, from Francisca, is if one can get feedback on previous grant applications that were not granted.
Actually not. This is one of the principles of the foundation not to do that, and it would also tie up a lot of resources, I think. So we don't do that.
But maybe in that regard, well, this is what we do now. We are trying to tell as much as we can in general terms about what makes a success and what is not. But maybe the point also that don't apply too early, and just if you need to rush now in 2 months, when you have time available, and you can't do an IP analysis, you can't investigate all of these things thoroughly. Obviously, if you are very efficient and knowledgeable in the space, you may be doing a lot, but it may be a better idea not to file it too early. And this is maybe Lilian, you should comment, but this is meant to be a repeating call, an annual call. So you can wait until next year when you have more time and more possibilities of applying. And hopefully it will continue even there. But I guess we can very confidently say that this will happen next year again.
Yes, exactly. I was just going to mention that. I think it's one of the good things about this call, that it's going to be a yearly call. So you can rest assured that there will be a new call next year.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so one new message, sorry. Okay. A new thing that we've added also to this year's application is that if you are reapplying with the same project, we also have put in an extra step that you need to clarify how the application is different from last year's application or previous applications. So that's something also you need to sort of consider to be really clear about, because we need to know what's changed and how it has improved. Thank you, Alicia. So are there any more questions? If not, I want to thank you all for attending this information seminar. I hope you found your time well spent. Thank you, Olli, Lilian, Anna, and Ilaria for taking the time to answer all these questions. And if there are more questions regarding the grant, we kindly encourage you to post them through the question form on the Proof of Concept website. And I think you should be here also in the chat now. We will only answer questions that are sent through this form. And on the same page, you will also find more information about the grant, so please have a read. And the recording from today's meeting will also be posted there shortly. So with that, I wish you all a happy Friday and good weekend, and yeah, take care. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks.